Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Lawrence Church of God the Kingdom Men's class tonight. We've got a big crowd here tonight. Welcome to everybody online. Welcome to the Lawrence Church of God. I wish you or extend a personal invitation right now to come on Wednesday nights, where it's an exciting time, but it's also a lot of great things going on Sunday. So we start church at 11 o'clock Sunday, and I encourage you to invite as many men as you can. It is a numbers thing. You know, I worked with a guy, and he said he was more of a worldly guy. But when you're working for the Lord, you use anything you can. So he used to tell me, and as a joke, because he wasn't married, he said, you know, I got this theory, David, that if I ask 10 women out on a date and only 2 of them say yes, then I got something to do Friday and Saturday night. And I said, oh yeah, that's funny. But I'm going to tell you right now, if y'all invite 10 men to church and 2 say yes, guess how many people comes? About 10. Because who do men bring with them? They bring the whole family. That's all they bring. They just bring the whole family with them. So that's why we focus on men. Men's ministry, it should be the number one ministry in every church across America, because if you get the men, you get the whole family. You get the family, everything grows. So who will commit to say, I'm going to invite 10 men to church this Sunday, whether it be a text message, email, phone call, whatever. I'm going to invite 10 men to church. Anyone? Okay. Nobody's raising their hand. Okay, you know what? Everybody's raising their hand. That is awesome. All right. Men, we try to fix everything, don't we? Men try to fix everything. I know maybe it's a guy thing. It's our nature, right? Jackson, we try to fix stuff, right? And we try to fix it without reading instructions, first of all. You know, if all else fails, there's this theory in life. If all else fails, read the instructions, then 2, get a bigger hammer, and then you might get it right from there. I wish that we could fix everything. I wish that we could just say to somebody, I wish, when we start talking about people and trying to fix people, we get into that and we say, man, I wish so-and-so would just act right? And we try to diagnose it and try to fix it. It don't work like that. It just does not work like that. Everybody wants a quick fix. This is a problem with today's society. No one wants to wait for anything. We live in I call it the microwave society, but I think it's gone from the microwave society to basically we live in this TikTok social media society. And here's the problem with all that. Attention spans are now only 30 seconds. We live on watching these reels on social media all night long, all day. You sit there, you see people going through reels. And our attention span's 30 seconds. It's trouble. It's hard for teachers to teach kids in school nowadays because their little brains are programmed to 30 seconds. Try making a kid sit in school for an hour and a half and learn arithmetic. I don't know if they call it that nowadays or not, but mathematics for an hour and a half when they only want to sit there for 30 minutes or 30 seconds. They can only comprehend 30 seconds. And so we just can't get kids to sit, and we can't get them to learn anything because they're programmed to go 30 seconds. You can buy books. There's tons of books out there, but nobody really wants to read them. There's books on addiction. There's books on weight loss. There's books on stress, anxiety, depression. There's books on success. There's books on leadership. I got a book at home on church hurt. There's books on foreign language, learn a foreign language. I got books on learn Spanish for dummies. That's for me. And I got books, there's books on fishing. I probably should read those more. But But nobody really wants to read these books. Why? Because it takes too long. You know, if you think about the average person, they fill up their day. They fill up their day, and they don't want to read the Word of God. They don't want to read any of these books. And the way they fill it up is, you know what? If I can't read it, I'll just listen to it. My only gap in the day is driving the car, driving the truck. I get this gap in time, and I'm going to drive the truck, and you know what? I'll just listen to it. I'll listen to it then. I'll listen to the Bible then. I'll listen to this, you know, John Maxwell. I'm guilty of that one. I got a John Maxwell on 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership on audio, but I got a lot of audio as well. But I used to do the same thing. I used to drive from the south side of Indy to Carmel every day. I'd be listening to Rick Warren. I'd be listening to Tommy Tenney and John Maxwell. So all these, Zig Ziglar, I'd listen to all these because I didn't really have time to read it. I didn't want to take time to read it. My day was full. So what about me? Can I fix me? I can't even fix myself. But I know somebody that can. I know someone that can fix me. What about you? I can't fix you, but I know someone that can. Right? So, there's many of us, we're lost, without hope. But what I want to tell you today is hope has a name. Hope's name is Jesus. You know, I was talking to somebody the other day about the suicide rate. And I can see it happen. You remember, I think it was the last time I taught a few months ago, I talked about my testimony, how I fought depression for 9 years. It's a real thing. And God, remember, God took it away by one act of obedience. It doesn't work like that for everybody, but it worked for me that day. So, but what happens is people get to that point in depression, and they just don't think it's going to get any better. You know, what takes a person to end it? They just don't think they're going to get any better. And why don't they think they're any better? There's no hope. They have no hope. But I'm telling you today, hope has a name. Hope's name is Jesus. Hope is alive. So, when I see somebody and I want to fix them, and they're all doing things that they shouldn't be doing, you know, and you're like, man, I wish they just get it right. I wish they just start acting right, you know. But the thing is that we got to get them to find the number one thing, the main thing. We got to have them make the main thing the main thing. They got to find Jesus. If they can find Jesus, things are going to happen. So what we need to know and what we need to do on our end is be able to support the basis of what we believe, because they're going to be against it. They're going to have their own opinion. Everybody forms their own opinion. I'll talk more about that here later. Everybody forms their own opinion, but we got to share the good news with them. So what we need to know is, and there's a lot of times people still won't believe even when you do tell them the truth. You know, Frank Turek asked people, he says, if Christianity were true, would you become a Christian? And some people still say, no, I still wouldn't. He said, well, then I'm not going to waste my time on this person, because you're not going to win them over anyway, regardless, you know. So you don't ever give up. You still continue to pray for that person and still live out Jesus in front of them. But if you ask them, if Christianity were true, would you be a Christian? And they still say no. I don't know what else you do with that. So the other thing too is when we're forming a basis for what we believe is don't. I'm going to say it again. Don't believe everything on the internet. Okay? You know, they've sweetened up AI. You know, AI has turned into it's a pretty thing. And you ask Google a question, and you get Google AI to respond, and they say, and it breaks it down into these categories and all these answers. And I mean, I don't know how they do it so fast, right? Here's my word of warning. AI does a wonderful job at compiling data. It doesn't have to be true, right? It could compile a whole lot of lies, right? And I could tell you some that I've caught it on, and but here what I'm going to tell you today is, don't put all your faith and don't say, I'm going to look this up. Somebody asked about the Nephilim. I'm going to look this up, and I'm sure Google AI is going to come up with this big, long paragraphs and highlighted and bold and italicized, and they'll have it broken down really nice and tell you what it is. Right here is where it talks about it. Right here is where the answer is. The answer is alive. Okay. Might get excited here tonight. So let's talk about then the basis of what we believe, and what are we basing it on? The Bible and its authenticity, right? So somebody might say, I don't know if I can believe the Bible. I had someone say the other day, somebody wrote another story that's contrary to Jesus? And I said, well, they may have, but it never held up. You guys remember the Jewish leaders, they paid people to lie after Jesus rose from the dead and lie and say, I saw somebody steal the body. But then when you asked all of them, they all had a different story. I mean, just that. So you got to put together the authenticity of the Bible. So when you look at it, there are over 20,000 copies, first-hand copies from those original manuscripts in existence today. They all jive up, and there's no controversy over any of them. So if I'm going to look up the authenticity of something, then 20,000 copies of the same, of those original manuscripts should tell me something. We believe in Julius Caesar, don't we? Most people believe Julius Caesar. The only evidence that the man even lived are eight documents in existence today. We can't say that we don't trust the Bible because it's been proven throughout the years. Why do I tell people not to start reading the Bible from the very beginning? I've had a couple people here recently say, hey, you know what? I read your book, Shield the Warrior, and I recommended they get a Bible in there. And so they said, I got me a Bible. So where do I start? I said, don't start on Genesis chapter 1. It's great. But I say, open that thing up to the book of John. And the book of John is in the book of John, you're right when you first start out, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. Through him all things were made. Without him nothing was made that has been made. In him was life, and that life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, but the darkness did not understand it. John wrote a gospel here, and he wrote it from an intimate standpoint with Jesus. His gospel is different than the other three. And I have a whole series of lessons that I put together on the whole book of John. So I got 21 lessons. I did teach on one of them last year, right around Christmas. If you guys remember, it's called Are the Fish Biting? And it was from John 21. I started at the very end. But nevertheless, I'm excited that someday, God permitting, that I'll start sharing some of those lessons from the book of John, because it is so powerful. So I tell people to start with that book of John, then go back and read the other Gospels, and then read the whole New Testament from there. Then go back, because once you get it, because what's the takeaway from the whole New Testament? It's the good news. Jesus Christ, the resurrection, right? Once I get that, then I can go back and I'll fully believe everything. If I'm brand new to the Bible and I've never read it before, and I start reading, in the beginning was the 6 days of creation, and you got Noah and the ark, you got a flood, the whole world floods, you got a Tower of Babel, you got Mount Sinai, you got the Red Sea opening wide. You know, we live in a world of make-believe anyway. So to the new reader, it's going to be just another make-believe story. Right? So where the truth comes out is in the Word, and I tell people to start in John. I will throw in this isn't really a commercial because I don't sell these, but if you've not read the chronological Bible, I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. It's not taking one thing away from the Bible, but it's categorized by date of event rather than type of book. Now, if you take the regular Holy Bible, sure, the first words are in the beginning and the last word's amen. That's right. That's in the right order. But in between there, the books are categorized by type. So let me give you a couple examples. And this makes for a great stocking stuffer. You can get the whatever version you want to get. I do the New Living Translation, but because it's kind of dumbed down for me. But nevertheless, I'll give you some examples. Right now, we are toward the end of the book, right? We're in December, and so every year there's a group of us, or at least me and a few others. This year we have 18 of us together reading the New Testament, and it started on September the 24th. And that's why I say, get through that New Testament and get excited about Jesus. And so if you think about the book of Acts, you can read the Gospels, and in the chronological version, it goes from gospel to it goes back and forth through the Gospels because those events, it goes by the events. So it'll go, John one day, or you might have John, Matthew, Mark, and Luke all in one day because it's the same event, But you're still reading the whole Bible. But think about the book of Acts. If I just read the whole book of Acts, which takes over 30 plus years, I don't know the exact number right off the top of my head, but it's a lot of years. It wasn't just a few weeks or a few months that this happened. It was a lot of years the book of Acts took. But then you're like, oh, now I got all these letters that Paul wrote then now to the Romans and the Corinthians and the Galatians and the Ephesians and the Philippians and all that. But when did he write that? But if you're reading it through the chronological version of the Bible, it stops. You only go through part of Acts. You got Paul getting converted. Then he starts his journey. And during that journey, he writes certain letters. And so you know when that letter is written compared to where it's at in the book of Acts and the whole journey. Now, we're living Acts 29 right now. We're writing that today, right? Acts 28 written. We're writing Acts 29 because we are the church. It's the Acts of the Apostles, right? So it's super exciting to see these letters that Paul wrote in the order that they're in Acts. And so that book of Acts might take actually a month or two to read because you're getting those letters put in the timing that those letters are written and what's going on with those letters and what he's talking about. And he's referring to certain people, but then he goes back to Acts and you see him talking about the same person. And so another beautiful thing about it is I love the Psalms. I love reading the Psalms. But you're wondering, what was David going through when he wrote this? If you read the chronological version of the Bible, you know what David was going through, and it puts that psalm in there. And so, this is what he was going through during that time that he wrote that psalm. He might have been in the cave with Saul. He might have been running from Saul. He might have been with Bathsheba or after Bathsheba, and the prophet Nathaniel came to him and called him out, and then he writes the psalm. And so you know what's going on. It's beautiful. I love the psalm too because David was a man after God's own heart. And so you read the Psalms and you know how a man after God's own heart thinks. It's beautiful. So that's that. I'm talking about the Bible. I got a new Bible. Where do I start? Start in the book of John. And so you're building your basis of what you believe. The next thing is Jesus always existed. You know, Jesus is the foundation for all of it. He's always existed. I shared from John that in the beginning was the Word always existed, the Word was with God, the Word was God. He existed in the beginning, and so he created everything. He provided the ram for Isaac. He was on Mount Sinai. He was in the valley of the dry bones. Son of man, speak to these bones. He was at Mount Carmel with Elijah when they had the big confrontation with the prophets of Baal. He was there. He was there for all that. So then you think, who is Jesus? If somebody says, hey, well, you know what, and you're going to get this from a lot of religions and a lot of people, they might say, well, Jesus was a good teacher. Jesus was a prophet. Right? But we don't believe he's God. Well, that whole statement does not make sense whatsoever. Right? Because who did he claim to be? He claimed to be God. So this is always my response when somebody says, oh, Jesus is a good teacher, but I don't believe he's God. Well, how can you say that? You can't say that. Because if he claimed to be God and he wasn't God, I wouldn't call him a good teacher at all. I'd call him a crazy man. Right? If he was a prophet and he claims to be God and he really wasn't God, I wouldn't call him a good prophet either. I wouldn't follow him. But the only answer is that he was and is the God of all. He says, if you've seen me, guess who else you've seen? You've seen the Father. So I look at a couple other things here, and I'm looking still in John where he says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. You look in John 14, Jesus told him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father except through me. I don't know how much plainer to put that. Jesus said, if you had really known me, you would know who my Father is, and from now on, you know him and have seen him. When we talk about the foundation, though, the bottom line for what we believe, it's always down to one event, and it's the resurrection, right? You'll get any atheist that's halfway knowledgeable, and they will not deny that this man, Jesus, walked on the earth, did good things, healed people, died on a cross. But where the problem comes is that resurrection. Over 500 people saw him, right? And if that were not true, and I encourage people, I put it on Facebook all the time. I encourage you, try to prove it wrong. If you don't think Christianity is the right approach, if you think another religion might be it that just makes you feel good, just prove the resurrection wrong. I guarantee if you did, you get the Nobel Prize, the Pulitzer Prize, the Grammys, the Emmys, you get every single prize that they offer today, right? Because nobody can. Good luck. Nobody has been able to do that in years. And why haven't they been able to do it? Because the testimonies of the things that happened, people did see, right? So I'll say this, one more thing about Jesus and that resurrection, because this is in my heart, and I'll probably put something together for around the Easter time frame, right? And I'm just call it "It is finished," because the path that he took to that cross does not make sense to any normal human being. It doesn't make sense at all, right? But it's like, Jesus, why didn't you just tell him? Just tell him who you are and just take charge. Because he had a process that started from time to his birth here on earth all the way to that last day. And he didn't have to do all that. He could have told all those people that were against him, the people slapping him, the people beating him with a whip, he could have just said the word and they just fell over dead. He could have. He's so powerful that he didn't have to die on the cross. He could still be hanging there today if he wanted to. If he wanted to be, he didn't have to die. But he had those 3 words. Those 3 last words. It is finished. The plan's over. Not everybody got it. We still don't get it 100% today. We will someday. But it was the only thing that would have worked. It was the only way that it worked. So, again, if and I share this now with telemarketers that text me. I love it. They text me and say, hey, you want to sell this place over in this house, or you want to sell your house or whatever? And so I got automatic text replies made up and says, I've done over 30 plus years of research on heaven and hell. If they really exist, if heaven really exists, there's only one way to get there. And his name's Jesus. I'm like, do you know Jesus? You need peace in your heart? Call me. Text me. Because he's the only way. There is no other way. Other religions will say, I can get there by doing X, Y, and Z. No, you cannot do any of those. He already did it. If I tried to earn my way, it'd be a slap in the face. It's saying the cross isn't good enough. Right? So, foundation of our belief. Let's look at that resurrection and the testimony of the apostles. Let's just look at that one. Because if I'm in court of law and I'm going to make a decision, I'm going to talk to the eyewitnesses. But then I'm not going to talk just to the eyewitnesses. I want to talk to the people that died, gave up their life. There's been a lot of people that have died for a lie, but they thought it was true. So far, 0 people have died for a lie that they knew was a lie. All those martyrs, those apostles, eventually at one point, they would have said, I'm playing. I'm kidding. I'm just joking. Don't crucify me. Don't execute me upside down with arrows. Don't boil me in a vat of oil, burning oil. Don't do it. I ain't getting in there because I didn't really see him. I'm playing. I didn't see him. Nobody says that. Nobody says that. None of them said that. 0. So that tells me, you know what? I'm inclined to believe that this Jesus really did live. Paul, let me back. I got Paul on here too. Let's look at Paul's testimony. This is like one man. He was established with the Jewish leadership. He was trained. I just read it in today's reading in the chronological Bible in Acts. He said, look, folks, I am a Jew. I was trained by Gamaliel here in Jerusalem. I'm a Pharisee. I know the Jewish law. He says, I'm a Roman citizen. He didn't have to go through what he went through. All he had to do is stop and say, I didn't see Jesus on the road to Damascus. That's all he would have to do. But no. Look at this in 2 Corinthians. He writes, are they servants of Christ? I know I sound like a madman, but I have served him far more. I have worked harder. This is Paul. I've been put in prison more often, been whipped times without number. I faced death again and again. 5 times the Jewish leaders gave me 39 lashes. And when we say 39 lashes, that's a cat tail. That's a tail that rips out skin, right? 5 times I got 39 lashes. 3 times I was beaten with rods. When you're beaten with rods, you don't walk. You don't walk for quite a while. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. Once I spent a whole night and a day adrift at sea. I have traveled on many long journeys. I have faced danger from rivers and from robbers. I have faced danger from my own people, the Jews, as well as from the Gentiles. I have faced danger in cities, in the deserts, in the seas. I have faced danger from men who claim to be believers but are not. I have worked hard and long, enduring many sleepless nights, and have been hungry and thirsty, and have often gone without food. I have shivered in the cold without enough clothing to keep me warm. I think if he really didn't see Jesus, I don't see anybody in this whole world that would go through all that. He could just say, you know what, I'm going to just tell you the truth. I didn't really see him. But he did see him. And he did, when he went to preach to the people, he said, he didn't speak out against the politics. He didn't speak out against the establishment, the government. He didn't. Think about when Paul was alive, a third of Rome was under slavery. The Roman emperor was homosexual. He could have slammed all of them. But you know what he said? I preach Jesus Christ and him crucified only. That's it. That's all I'm preaching. Jesus Christ, him crucified. So I think between the eyewitnesses that saw him and all gave their life for it, none of them cracked. You got the Bible, its foundation, it's strong. And then you got Paul's testimony and other testimonies as well. Eventually you got to say, you know what? I'm going to have to hand it over to you, Lord. And then I know he's real. Then I feel his presence, right? Brother Isaac Sunday morning says, how many times is the name Jesus mentioned in the New Testament? Did you say Testament or the whole Bible? In the whole Bible. He had a number. But I'm sitting there thinking too, not only the word Jesus, but the other names too. You can even add to that, and that probably makes it so many more. You got Jesus. He's the Messiah. He's the Christ. Emmanuel, Son of Man. I am. Jehovah. All the names about Jehovah. Jehovah Jireh, Jehovah Nisi, Jehovah Rapha. So you got, and then lastly you got Wonderful. We sang this Sunday morning. Wonderful. Counselor. Mighty God. Prince of Peace. Savior of the world. There's so many names that he is in that Bible. He is all of it. So I think about the song, I Know a Name. I'm not going to sing it because nobody will want to come back on Sunday. But nevertheless, Brandon Lake's got that song, I Know a Name that can silence the roaring waves. I know a name that can empty out a grave. I know a name, it's the only name that saves. And it's worthy of all praise. Guys, folks watching, I can tell you the answer has a name. The answer's name is Jesus. Hope has a name. Healing has a name. Forgiveness has a name. Righteousness has a name. Holiness has a name. Victory has a name. Success has a name. Peace has a name. Salvation has a name. Rescue has a name. Fulfillment has a name. Truth has a name. Freedom has a name. Recovery has a name. Deliverance has a name. Abundant life has a name. Protection in this life has a name. Heartbeat, my heartbeat, has a name. And breath of life has a name. You know, you think about Jesus, he's the sum of all areas. You know, from the moment I wake up in the morning, you know, my eyes open, I take that breath, I get out of bed, I got strength to stand up, I walk, I have breakfast, I see people, I got eyes to see it, I got ears to hear it, healing if I need it, comfort if I need it, friends if I need it, and another night to go to sleep. You total it all together, put it all together, add it all up, equals Jesus. He's everything. He's all of it. So, here's where the problem comes. The problem is everybody's got an opinion. You know, we talked about our foundation, what we believe. I don't have anywhere else to go. Remember Peter said, Jesus said, well, what about you guys? You all staying around? He said, Peter's like, where am I going to go? You're the only one with the words of eternal life. Where else are we going to go? So the problem is everybody has an opinion. It doesn't matter how much you convince them otherwise. Right? Everybody's got an opinion. I wish I had a picture of it now. Maybe I'll share it someday. In the front cover of the Purdue Exponent in 1980. It's got talking about evangelism on campus. And there was a man that came there. Brother Max is what everybody called him. Turns out his name was Max Lynch, or was Max Lynch. But he tote that Bible, and he went to Purdue, Indiana, Minnesota, Illinois, quite a few universities, and he would preach the word. He'd go right in the middle of the campus at Purdue Mall. It's got a picture of him there. He's walking, he's showing, he's holding this Bible, and he's convincing people and telling them, hell is real, Jesus is real, heaven's real, he's in there. Standing behind him is this tall, skinny guy with a backpack on with a smile across his face, and guess who that is? It's me. And you know what? I can remember to this day, there was a guy sitting there, and he's kind of in the picture too. And when you're a college student, I'm telling you right now, a college student is the smartest person in the world. It's not a graduate. It's the student, because they think they're the smartest person in the world. I thought I was the smartest person in the world. And this one guy, he would debate Brother Max all day long. And I'd think, oh, Brother Max, you ain't got nothing on this guy. I like to know where that guy is today, right? You know, people thought Brother Max was a dumb guy. Brother Max, turns out, Max Lynch was a very intelligent guy. He worked for General Electric, I think, and as an engineer, and he worked for years as an engineer, and then he took a teaching role at Indiana State, and they ended up firing him because he told people about Jesus. And so he said, well, forget that, I got something else to do anyway. And so he went around preaching to college students. But it doesn't matter how much Brother Matt's convinced, he still plants a seed. You're still not going to change that person maybe at that specific time. I know I didn't really want to turn around and repent that day, but Brother Max planted a seed, and that's what we still do. A lot of times, though, it results in controversy. Brother Max and that guy sitting with I can see him now with his legs crossed, and he's super smart. Oh, man, he was so smart. And debating with Brother Max, and all it does is create controversy. Folks, this is really what the enemy wants. He wants this controversy to come about and be a distraction. So we got to look at it and say, enemy, devil, I see what's going on here. I'm not going to be part of that. Everybody's got an opinion, right? Some people like spring. Some people like summer. Some people like fall. Some people like winter. You one of them? Oh, my word. Okay, I know. I bet your mama dropped you when you was a little kid. Okay, all right. Anyway, so everybody's got an opinion, and they've made their mind up for it. Some people like Fords. Some people like Chevys. Now, anybody in their right mind knows that Chevrolet's better, but go ahead and preach it. But some people are convinced that Ford's good. Some people are convinced that Chevy's good. And I ain't going to talk about the rest of them because they didn't come close to either one of them. I will say this, and this is a guy thing. So if you're a woman watching, I did like a couple things on the Fords back when I could work on them back in the 70s and 60s, is that they put the solenoid on the firewall over here on the side instead of on the starter. Man, I could jump that solenoid just like that. And they put the distributor in the front of the V8. Man, I thought, well, that's so much easier to tune up a Ford than it is a Chevrolet. But still, that's where I draw the line. Try changing tie rods on a 73 Ford LTD. You're going to know what I'm talking about. So Ford versus Chevy. People have an opinion. Pepsi versus Coke. Some people say Pepsi's better. Some people say Coke's better. Some people say Indiana University's better. Purdue University's better. Auburn's better. Alabama's better. Tennessee's better. Vanderbilt's better. You know, they already got it in their mind. You ain't going to convince them otherwise. They have opinions on abortion. They have opinions on drinking alcohol. They have opinions on recreational drugs. They have opinion on gender selection and pronouns. You're not going to convince them. Once somebody makes up their mind, it's hard to convince them otherwise. And I want to convince them. I want them to see the light. But here in these last several months, I've just turned it a different direction. And I say, find Jesus first. Find Jesus first. I'm not saying I don't care what you believe. But if you find Jesus first, I'm pretty sure you're not going to get abortion. I'm pretty sure you're not going to be doing the things that God doesn't want you to do. I'm pretty sure. And so my thing is I just wanted them to find Jesus first. I don't care. Find Jesus first. And so, you say, well, David, that sounds so great. How do I find Jesus? I don't know how to break this down much simpler, but Jesus is real. He's the only way. He's coming back for a group of people who believe that he is God. So, if you're not a Christian, if you're watching today, if you're not a Christian, there has never been a better time. There's never been a better time for you to make that commitment. The decision you make, either way, will have an eternal impact. What camera am I on? Over here. The decision you make will have an eternal impact. So, if you say, okay, I believe what you're saying, Dave, I really do, then all we do is we just say this prayer. We say, Lord Jesus, I am completely lost and undone without you. I believe you came from heaven. You died on a cross for me. You rose from the dead. You appeared to hundreds of people. And you ascended back to heaven. And I commit my life to you, Lord. From this day, I look forward to your coming to take us from this temporary home and deliver us and deliver me to our true and eternal home with you. I hope you prayed that prayer. If you did pray it and you meant it, you're going to have a new desire for him. You're going to have a new desire to know him. And you're free to call me, call text, call pastor, call the church, respond on this video, respond to the Facebook, and just ask questions. One thing I did share at the recent men's conference is I got a thing called Keep It Going. I might just put this on there's a new page I put together on Facebook called Find Jesus First. It's all dedicated just to him, finding him first. But, when you do find him, and if you're new, find a Bible-believing church. This is a good one. Be baptized. Get baptized. I've been saved now. I want to get baptized. Set aside time each day, every day, to focus on God. It doesn't have to be the whole day. It'd be great if it was. But I guarantee you, if you took 15 minutes to 30 minutes every single day, your life would, you'd be changed. If you want to say, you know what, I want to be all in for God for a year, watch what's going to happen this time next year if you go all in for God. Take that time each day. I shared this story before, and it's like when we had the class back here. I don't know if you were in the class at that time in the discovery room, but I challenged everybody to say, you know what, this week, this is Sunday, from now to next Sunday, take 15 minutes a day and pray. Just take 15 minutes a day and pray. And I did it too. And at the end of that week, I could not believe the things that happened that week. I could not believe how my walk with Jesus was so much different. I saw miracles happen. I saw people change. But you know what? They didn't really change. It was me. I kept thinking to myself, man, these people are changing. But it wasn't them. It was me the whole time. And so I go through that whole week. And then, you know what? You think, and we shared in the class, some that did it and say, oh, yeah, they kind of shared the same thing. All it was 15 minutes out of 1,440 each day. You think, 15 minutes? I don't know if I got that, But there's 1,440 minutes in a day. So it did it 15 minutes. So you think I would have kept on doing it. I'm honest. I'm honest. Don't look at me like I'm crazy. It's this sin machine that I live in. It's this body that I live in that still is opposed to God, and it doesn't want to do those things. So you got to set in your mind, look, I'm going to set time aside each day. I commit to at least 30 minutes a day, and it's reading the Word and praying. And sometimes it goes over that. Sometimes it's just all praying, and sometimes it's all reading the Word. Well, no, I still pray. But nevertheless, ask questions. There are websites out there, and I know I told you at the beginning, don't believe everything, but there are a couple websites out there that are dedicated 24 hours a day to, one's called chataboutfaith.com, and another one's called chataboutjesus.com. And there are people who have donated their time, their life, 24 hours a day. You go on there, type or call their number, and they'll tell you about Jesus. It's amazing. You got Promise Keepers. That's also a good one because they have live blogs as well. Get an accountability partner. Find a small group or a circle, and just look for ways to serve. Look for ways to serve. So, the last thing I can say, guys, is wherever people are, love on them. Wherever people are, love on them, and help them to find Jesus first. That's it for this week, everybody. Have a great week. We will, hey, come back next week. Are we still on? Okay. You want to come back next week, I'll tell you why, because Pastor asked me to teach one more week, and next week is going to be all about heaven and hell. And you're thinking, I've heard it, but I'm going to tell you, who do I want to hear from when I want to hear about heaven? I want to hear from somebody that's been there, right? So this whole lesson next time is going to be Jesus' perspective, and we're going to break it down of what he said about heaven. And you don't want to miss it. You don't want to miss it because just to keep your mind on it, I'm going to tell you 4 words you never want to hear. I'll see you next week.